So if you haven't heard yet, Heist is actually pretty good now. Do you want to be able to get to 90 plus in just a couple of hours? How about loading up on tons of Exalts and Chaos and lots of other small currencies without very much work at all? Or maybe you're one of those top end players that's looking to get into some of the fracturing blueprint shenanigans. No matter what kind of player you are, I've got the details to help you get just a little bit further ahead in Heist League. Hey guys, Big Ducks here, and welcome back to the channel. Now it turns out, I know this sounds crazy, but if you continuously buff a league's drops multiple times every single week, it turns out at a certain point it gets kind of ridiculous how much items can drop and how good the returns on playing actually can be. And that's what's happened with Heist. Now, you may know that Heist released to kind of some lukewarm opinions. There are lots of bugs, lots of issues with it. It didn't really work in a lot of cases. Most of the new skills didn't work, the new gems didn't work, some of the uniques were bugged. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that happened. However, most of that's been fixed now, and honestly, Heist is pretty ridiculous. You're able to get like 300 plus million XP per hour just running contracts. Now you have to run them in a specific way, which I'll talk about later, but I was able to get from mid 70s all the way up to 90 plus in the course of just a few hours, like 3 to 5. I've got more small currencies than I know what to do with at this point. I mean, if you've seen the price of chisels, they're like 1 to like 35 or 40 right now. It's probably gonna get even worse. And I mean, the cost of Exalts is down to like 30 chaos right now. It's actually kind of insane how much currency has just been pushed into this league. So remember guys, if you enjoy my content, make sure to like this video so that more people can see it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content similar to this. And last but not least, if you want a sneak peek at some of the new builds and some of the new ideas I've got, make sure to follow me over on Twitch. That's the best place to find things that happen before they make it over to the YouTube channel. Now, without further ado, let's get into the guide. Now, there's going to be a couple different sections to this guide. I'm going to be talking about leveling up, and I'm going to be talking about making currency. I'm going to talk about gearing your rogues and all that kind of good stuff, and I'm also going to be talking about blueprints. So make sure that if you want to jump to a specific part of the video, you go down to the description, check out the timestamps. I'd like for the little chapters thing to work, but it hasn't worked on my channel for like months now, so maybe complaining about it will get it to work. We'll see. Now, some things that I want to talk about when it comes to actually running these heists is that I personally think that the most efficient way to do this is going to be choosing what you want to do and focusing mainly on that. Now, you can either focus on leveling, you can focus on gaining a bunch of currency, or you can do both at the same time, and that's personally what I like to do. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about leveling and leveling quickly. Now, there are a couple different contracts that are good for this, but there are specific zones that are the best for this compared to other ones. Those are Tunnels, Repository, and Records Office. Now, Records Office is kind of one that is a little bit more dangerous than the other ones, so you may not want to do it, but the other two are relatively safe and they do give a lot of experience. So the big thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you really want to push the amount of experience that you get from these, you really do want to try to roll the contracts with this mod that says reward rooms have increased monsters. That's the big thing that you're looking for. This is a modifier that you can get on pretty much any contract. Now, of course, the higher eye level of the zone, the better it's going to be. Now, the idea behind this is that as you clear out a zone, right? As you clear it out and you open up more doors and you open up more of these little side rooms, like in this one, you're gonna see there's 1, 2, 3, there's 3 side rooms here. That's not very many because this is a low level contract, tier 1, whatever it is, lockpicking 1 contract, so there's not a ton of rooms here. But the idea is you want to open as many of these side zones as you can, because when the alert actually goes off, these rooms flood with enemies. And the goal here is that we are going to be farming these flooding enemy rooms that just get absolutely packed with tons of enemies that spawn out, like that right there that you can see. Now, I want you to keep in mind that I am level 92, so I'm not getting very much experience. This is a level 83 zone, but I'm still not gaining a ton of experience here. The idea is that you're just going to rush through here, you're going to open up whatever chest you want to, it doesn't really matter. I'll talk more about loot later. For right now, we're mainly just focusing on actually getting the experience from the heist. So if you want more information on loot, it'll be a little bit later in the video. But you need to make sure that you open up all of these reward room doors, even if you're not going to be taking the rewards from them. Although most of the time, the big reward rooms are better. Even if you're not going to be taking the rewards from those rooms, you still do need to make sure that you are opening up all of these doors. So we've got this last third door here, and this is going to be a much shorter one, so I'll be able to give you guys just like a quick sneak peek on how this works, and then I'll get more in depth on how the process goes and what you should really be doing and how you should be going about it. So now once you get all the way here towards the end where you have the alarm is going to go off because you've grabbed the heist target, this is where things get a little bit different from what you normally do. Now, standard procedure would be that you grab this thing and you just run like a bat out of hell and try to get out of this contract immediately as soon as you can. However, if we are wanting to level very quickly, this isn't the way to go about it. What you should be doing is you should be trying to clear out these enemies, and you can see how many monsters are spawning here, right? Now this is a low tier example, so there's not even going to be that many monsters here in comparison to what there could be, but you'll still see these rooms are filled with enemies, and this only gets more and more as you go on. So the idea here is that this is just like a super high density blue and yellow packed map where the enemies just spawn endlessly. Now there is a certain point where you can't really do this anymore, and you can basically run through the zone like 2 or 3 times before you start losing XP. And what I want you to look at is that you can barely see my XP bar down below my camera, and you'll see that when we get these big giant packs, even though I am like level 92, which means I don't gain very much experience at all, that XP bar is still moving pretty decently when we're killing these packs. Like, you can get, even at high levels, like a couple bars an hour very easily. That's like some similar XP to like some Chayula Breach Stones and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. It's a pretty respectable amount of XP for such a simple thing to do. It doesn't really take very much investment. You're just running a couple different heist contracts of high level. You can get these just by doing random maps, right? I have been leveling faster in this league than probably any other league since maybe besides when I was spamming Simulacrums and Delirium. Okay, so we got back. Normally you'd leave, right? Here's the catch. When you do this strategy, you're actually going to turn around and run through the zone one more time. Typically, one more time is about all that's worthwhile, but you can see how it's already filled back up with enemies in these reward rooms, right? You can see like the massive amount of enemies in these zones. So this, like I said, is a weak example of what you can get going. You run back through here, you mainly want to focus on these reward room areas or areas that have little doors that pop in enemies like that, and you just kill all of the enemies 2 more times, meaning you walk all the way back to the end again, and then you walk back out. That's about the threshold at where you stop getting experience, is around that point. Once you've gone in, grab the heist contract, out, and then in and back out again. Beyond that, you don't get as much experience, so I suggest that you get out. But you can see what I'm talking about here, right? You see how many enemies have flooded into these rooms? As long as you don't like overpower the contract to a ridiculous amount, it doesn't even really matter if you die, unless you're at a very, very high level. You just push through here and kill as many enemies as you possibly can. After a little bit, like I said, you will get to the point where you're no longer going to be able to get experience from these enemies anymore. And you'll notice that pretty quickly as soon as you're like on your second run through. Once you get towards the end, the enemies will stop giving you experience. I say that you can maybe do 1 additional run if you really want to, but it's probably not worth risking it. It's not really worth the time. Because you're not going to get any drops really doing this. They're very, very small amount of drops when you're running through these. And I'll talk about more of the general strategy that I do on average later on in the video as well. You kind of get the idea. This is how you get a ton of experience through heists. You just run back through. I mean, look at how many enemies are in here. It's a ridiculous amount of enemies. I've already gotten a couple of bars of experience in just like the 1 or 2 test zones that I've done just for this video, right? Like it's kind of insane. And like I said, I'm level 92. So you can see it's an insane amount of experience, and it's not really that dangerous as long as you're playing the right build. Now when it comes to actually making money off of general contracts, it's going to be a little bit different. There are particular contracts that are much better for making money than other ones. Now, I have moved most of my normal contracts into actual stash tabs because I feel like the organization of this heist locker is pretty bad. So if you have a bunch of stash tabs, organizing them by the type of job they are is a lot better, so I suggest that you do that. So there are a couple of different contract types that are better for making currency. And the few that I personally like the 2 that I really prefer are lockpicking and deception. Now the reason for this is that lockpicking just has pretty good rewards on average. Jewelry rewards can actually be pretty solid, and lockpicking has a ton of currency rewards, and it's pretty fast, and you get to bring Karst with you, and he's just good overall for making currency because you can open up basically all the chests in the entire zone. However, on a time basis, the best one is actually deception. The reason why deception in particular is so good is because when you actually run deception contracts, the doors don't close again on the way out. So the idea is that as you enter and as you force all of those doors open, they're not closed on the way back out. So you can actually just zoom your way straight back out. So deception is really good. Lockpicking is really good. Agility can be okay, but honestly, agility is a little bit annoying. One thing that I do want to note, which I will show you here, let's do an agility contract. I've got an eye level 83 one right here. One thing that I do want you to know about agility contracts, and this will give me a little bit of time to talk about how you actually do them for making money. The only thing that really matters now after they've changed everything are the large chests. The small chests aren't as good, but you still can open them if you've got nothing else to open. In particular, I think the types of chests that are worthwhile to open are the currency chests. Things like fragment chests are okay. Fossil chests are pretty decent. But there are a lot of bad chests as well. Like essence chests aren't going to give you very much. The like abyss chests, legion chests, breach chests are kind of iffy. There's a lot of bad ones, unfortunately. But this particular kind of contract does actually have quite a few good ones. Fossils can breed pretty solid, and the types of little chests, as far as I'm aware, I'm not 100% certain on this, but the little chests are more likely to be the ones that are the type of whatever contract that you're running. You can go on Google and you can look up a cheat sheet for what the different contracts give you. Just type in cheat sheet or heist cheat sheet or something like that. Unfortunately, it's changed so many times that I don't want to put it in this video because it might change again. There is something interesting that you should know about agility contracts though. So you see this little section here with the beams? If you're playing a dodge build or a build that doesn't take very much damage, you can actually just go through those beams yourself and stand on this little platform yourself, and it turns the beams off. You don't need to sit there and watch, you know, like Talina do her fucking acrobatic shit. You could just go through it yourself. It's perfectly fine. Most of the trap type ones like that, you can actually just jump right through with no problems. But you'll see this is another essence one, and essences aren't that great. There's not really any essence rewards that I would think is worth it. So the main focus when you're trying to make money is getting through, getting the big chest, getting the chest at the end, filling up your alert bar all the way to the top, and then getting out. Now, there are some circumstances where you can do things like, say, run through and use that little section at the end to get more chests. However, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it's probably not actually worth it to try to min-max these too hard. You're better off just pushing through the heists and getting more done, in my opinion. You can make a ton of currency by just pushing through these heists, opening the good chest, and moving on to the next one. You don't need to spend a bunch of time trying to min-max which little chest that you get. You don't need to spend a whole bunch of time trying to do all of that crazy stuff that some people might tell you, oh, make sure that you open this, and this chest, and you open these minor chests, and you make sure that you stack, you know, stats on your rogue that makes it so that there's more time before lockdown and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, some of that stuff is useful, or you could just not do any of that and just open up the chests that you know are good and just push on to the next one, right? You'll get more experience that way anyways, so that's gonna be what I suggest. So getting actual currency out of normal contracts is pretty reliable. You can run pretty much whatever you want, and I'll show you here in my currency that I've got. This is only from just running like a couple grand heists and some normal stuff. I mean, I've got almost 300 chisels. I've been using these constantly. I'm at over 200 chaos. The vast majority of this is just raw chaos that is dropping from contracts. Close to 6 exalt. I think 4 plus these 17 exalted shards are actually from just like heists themselves. I've gotten so many exalted shards from the currency section that it's kind of insane. I mean, you can see why the cost of exalts are so low, that and the bots being banned. All of that together has led to just an insane amount of small currencies. Now, I've spent all of my alterations because I was trying to roll something a few minutes ago. There's just a ton of small currencies to the point where I've kind of removed all of them out of my filter. But you can get an idea of how easy it is to make so much small currency through heists if you're just running through them constantly. I only blue roll them. Like, I just throw a chance orb at them, and if they look okay, like, it can roll yellow sometimes. As long as the mods don't look like something that I might, like, hate, then I run them most of the time. I don't think that there is a ton of use in trying to like omega min-max these kinds of small contracts. You really just want to run them to get more of the rogues markers so that you can do big blueprints, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Now, before we get into blueprints, before we get into talking about any of the big boy stuff, I do want to actually go over the rogues and some of their gear itself, because this is important, right? For normal contracts, most of this really doesn't matter that much, like the different rogues aren't too important. However, as soon as you start pushing into actual blueprints, which are like the grand heist that can get you the cool stuff, as soon as you start pushing into those, you really do want to start thinking a little bit more about your rogues. It's honestly pretty hard to level up your rogues. It takes a lot of time, but it is worth it to get certain rogues maxed out. The ones that I think are most important is Vendiri is the #1 most important rogue out of all of them. I know when you see this thing that says 26% more raising of alert level, you're like, oh, that's terrible. I don't like that. It's horrible. Don't worry about thinking that it's bad. This heist chests have a chance to duplicate their contents is way better than any other mod that any of the other rogues have. Vendiri is the GOAT. He is the best rogue out of all of them. You should try to bring him with you whenever you can at any time. It doesn't matter. He is the best one. Hands down, bring him every single time. Some of the other good rogues for Grand Heist that you want to bring with are things like Karst. He gives you a bunch of less alert level from opening rewards chests. Isla is pretty good if you can take her. She's the only one that really gets level 5 engineering anyway, so you have to bring her most of the time. She gives you a bunch of time before lockdown, so if you do mess up or you want to do like a little run at the end and grab a couple extra chests, she's really good. Those are the 3 that I think are the most important for actually gaining more out of Grand Heist, like getting more out of the blueprints. Below that, there are a couple that are kind of useful, and then below that there are some that are only situationally useful, and then we'll talk about Huck. So the ones that are kind of useful, I would say, are Talina. She gives you a chance to find an additional heist target from the secret reward rooms. Those are cool. She has less raising of alert level. There's Nanette, which allows you to scout and see enemy patrols, and she also gives you a little bit less alert level. Also, there is going to be Niles and Tibbs. These guys will allow you to open up additional chests after everything is locked down. This can be useful if you've got like a bunch of big chests that you want to open later on. Niles and Tibbs can open those, but keep in mind that they can only open magical chests for Niles and mechanical chests for Tibbs, so it has to be that kind of chest. And then the last one is Gianna. Gianna's not really great, honestly. She is the deception level 5, so you have to bring her if it's a level 5 deception thing. But the main thing that Gianna is worthwhile for is she gives you reduced cost of revealing blueprints, and it's a huge reduced cost. But that's better for just running deception contracts. Deception contracts are some of the best ones that you can run anyways, but we'll talk about gaining that in a little bit. And then there's Huck. Huck is actually pretty strong. Like, he's actually a pretty good character in general. However, he only gets to level 3 of any of these. That's the max that he gets to any of this. And it turns out that just having level 3 of all of those different things isn't super useful. So Huck is kind of just the guy that you throw in if you've got no one else. Like, if you're going to duplicate someone anyways, you might as well just throw Huck in there, you know? He's okay. The other thing that you should be thinking about is the gear on these characters. Now, the one thing that I think is the most important actually are these items that give you auras. So you'll notice that these like melee ranged or magical weapons can give you things like Purity of Fire or Haste. The different types of ones can give you different auras, like the ranged one is going to give you ranged auras, the melee one is going to give you melee type auras, and then I don't think I have any of the magic ones going. It looks like, where is it? It looks like this burst band here. This can give you magical auras. So the idea is that these, I feel, are the most important out of all of them. This is going to give you, whenever he's near you, you've just got a level 10 haste aura. No matter what, it's just whenever he's near you. And then like for Karst, I've just got a level 5 Purity of Fire aura whenever he's near me. The second most important thing is going to be getting things that say heist chests have a chance to duplicate currency, or they have a chance to duplicate whatever else. You should put these on the people that like align with the types of currency that they can drop. So like, for example, lock-picking ones can drop a bunch of currency, so you want to make sure that you give Karst one that says heist chests have a chance to duplicate contained currency. You want to make sure that you try to align what the like duplicate currency or duplicate catalyst or anything with the things that people have. Like for Talina, you'd give her like currency or like currency shards. For Vendiri, you'd want to do things like delirium rewards. For Tibbs, you want to do things like uniques or fossils. And then beyond that, there is also the cloak. You should get a cloak that has the reduced raising of alert level and then increased time after lockdown happens. Those are the things that you want to look for there. And then you can just get whatever good stuff on the main item. Typically, each item, like there's a specific thing for each person. Like they have a thing for lock picking, and then they have a thing for demolition, etc., etc. That's all that you really should care about the items, about gearing these people. It's not super important, honestly, but it can give you a little bit of an edge. You might as well if you're finding the items anyways. I just self-rolled all of these. Like, I rolled them with, like, I just drop, like, an alch on this, or I roll it with, like, alterations just to get an aura that you wanted. That's what I did with this. I just rolled it with alterations, and then I hit it with a regal. I mean, you get an insane amount of currency, so, like, you'll have no problems with regals and alchemies and transmutes, and you can buy them, because none of these currencies are worth anything right now. Like, just chaos is, like, the king of currency at the moment. Now, as for leveling them, you just want to get these people up as high as you possibly can because you get additional benefits from their buffs the higher level of each of their things that they are. So like, for example, with Tibbs, he can unlock 2 mechanical chests when you get him up to level 5. That's pretty important. You should try to level these people up as much as you can. It's got 40% less raising alert level. And like things like Gianna, when you get her leveled up, you can see that when you are unveiling blueprints with Gianna, she gives you a 40% discount. That's pretty huge. So let's talk about blueprints, right? Now, I have a blueprint here that I am going to be running tomorrow on stream. You should go check out twitch.tv/bigducks, by the way. This blueprint here, if you take a blueprint and you just hold Alt, you'll notice that it shows you all the rewards that are possible, right? So you can see all the different rewards that are available. You mainly want to be looking for lots of currency chests. That's the main thing that you really care about. The good ones are like currency chests, the Harbinger chest, uniques can be okay, fossils can be okay, delirium rewards can be okay, jewelry is actually okay, and so are gems. The rest of them I'm not a huge fan of, but none of the chests are bad, I would say, except maybe like talisman, essence, and maybe abyssal ones. The rest of them are at least worth opening most of the time, maybe not blight either, but those are just kind of bad, and maybe maps too, I'm not sure. But like, the weapon and armor ones can be okay, the Legion ones can be okay, gems can be okay, but the main one that you're really looking for are currency, currency shards, and probably uniques and fossils. Those are the ones that are really important, and delirium, of course. Currency and currency shards, though. Those are the big ones. So you can hold Alt on here, you can see this. Honestly, what you roll the contract with is not really too important. I'll actually roll it with an alchemy here. You just want to get alert level reduction and time before lockdown. That's really all that matters. Maximum alive reinforcements is good if you're trying to do blueprints for experience as well. You can do that leveling trick with blueprints also. You just want to get some mods that don't look like this. Like, this is super, super scary. It's got double gained of physical as fire and cold. You want to try to get stuff that's like this one. So this is a good example. See where it says -5 player lightning resist per 25 alert level? That doesn't say maximum. So it's actually just going to give you like -20 lightning resist in the zone. So if you've got 20 over cap, you'll still be fine. When you take the contract down here into the planning room, you'll actually be able to drop it onto the planning table, and you'll see that I already have this set up, but you'll be able to choose between the different people. And this is the important part when you want to make sure that you're bringing the right people with you. Now, I actually don't have Vendiri at level 5 demolition yet. That's why I'm not doing this contract in particular. We'll do a different one so I can show you. But this one right here, I'm still getting Vendiri to level 5, but you can see you want to bring Vendiri with if at all possible. You want to bring Isla with. Like here, this is the only option that I have, right? I don't have Vendiri up high enough. It requires engineering 5. It requires trap disarmament 3. I should get Vendiri up to level 3 so I can bring him into here as well. I'm not sure he can get trap disarmament. Maybe he can. And then Talina is the only one that can get agility to level 5. Okay, so when you actually go in to reveal this blueprint, the thing that you're going to notice is that there's these big zones, and these cost a lot, yeah? So what I suggest that you do is when you're revealing these large zones, you really should invest the time into Gianna, doing a couple deception contracts and getting her all the way up to level 5 before you start doing these giant reveals. Because look at this, 2124 in comparison to 3540. It's a 40% discount. It's so much cheaper to do it this way. So, I mean, it's highly suggested that you unveil it with Gianna. Now, the smaller zones you can use Wakano for. It's not really a big deal, but you'll see there's these little extra zones here. So we enter in the escape route right here. This is the extraction point. We enter right here, and we move through the heist trying to get towards the curio display. Now, you'll notice that there's going to be these extra escape routes. These escape routes can be in good places. They can be in bad places. Like, this is a really bad spot. It's literally the same amount of rooms away as the normal escape route, so you wouldn't want to get this. Now, if the escape route was like here, for example, you would want to take this, because then as soon as you go through and you pick up the curio item, you just jump right out and there's no problems, right? So what we're actually going to do is I'm just going to take a bad contract here. I'm just going to take one that I really don't care about. So we're going to take this one here. You'll see that we've got like a currency room here, so we'll unveil that one. We've got this one here. This is a full wing, so we are going to do it with Gianna. So that cuts down the cost quite a bit. And then we'll grab, like, we don't have any more Gianna Wakano. We'll grab these two rooms right here and maybe this one. So we will roll this contract right here. We're just going to go ahead and roll it yellow and hope we don't get anything too crazy. More rare monsters, increase area of effect, nemesis mod, endurance shards. That's perfectly fine. And this doesn't have any crazy levels of stuff, so we should be able to do it. Take it down to the planning room, drop it into here. You're going to see we have lockpicking. We want to bring Karst because he's good. We want to bring Vendiri because he's good. And then we want to bring Tibbs because he's good as well. And then we're gonna run over here, Vendiri. Between these two, I honestly think that Niles is the choice here because he's going to be able to unlock an additional magical chest afterwards. And then for lockpicking, we'll bring Karst. So you confirm the plans at the end, you listen to all of the rogues talk way too much, bring it over to Adia, you prepare Grand Heist, you drop it in there, and we begin the heist. Now this is a grand heist. It's going to drop specific items at the end, and there's going to be specific chests at the end that you're going to go for. Now, one thing that is the same with every single heist that you can do is that each of these zones, as long as the alert has not gone off, you can exit and perm all of your gear. That is actually pretty important, and a lot of people don't realize that. But you can say, take some, like, let's take a piece of gear, right? So we've got this Chaos Orb and these items here, and you're going to see that it says contraband on them, right? So we can actually just walk right back out, exit the escape route. None of this is contraband anymore. We can go back in, the alert level is the same, and we have permanently secured all of these items. So if you're going in and you find some really crazy gear or some really crazy items off of something before the alert has gone off, go perm them so that you don't have to worry about losing them in case you die to some random stuff, because you still can get randomly just one shot in these without even realizing what's going on. You'll notice that sometimes, okay, it actually happened right there. So you see how I brought Vendiri with? You see how we duplicated all of these items? You can duplicate pretty much anything. So we got 2 Moonstone Rings, 2 Ezamite Axes, and 2 Iron Hats. That can happen with anything, including Exalted Orbs or other like super crazy expensive uniques. Pretty much anything can be duplicated by Vendiri. He's really, really good. You should bring him with anytime you possibly can. Now you're gonna notice I'm mostly ignoring all of the small chests. It's because they've moved most of the rewards out of the small chests into the larger chests. But this zone in particular has a lot of good stuff in it. Like we've got Delirium rewards, currency rewards. This is our second set of currency rewards up here. Jewelry rewards are pretty decent. Like we just got a Whispering Delirium orb and we got some Simulacrum splinters. There's quite a bit of good stuff in here. So you'll see once again that these duplicated. Now I'm not actually sure if it's like a straight mirror of the item. It might be. You guys will have to tell me down in the comments if it is a straight mirror because I'm not 100% certain yet. These unfortunately didn't roll too well. But I'm gonna run through here. I'm gonna get the rest of these chests open and then I'll meet you guys back at the end when we can look at the curios. So now we're actually at the curios here. Now something that's interesting is that these aren't always going to be good, right? There are going to be circumstances where you just get bad ones. Like looking through here, we've got 40% reduced attribute requirements on these. These don't look too great. This is a shield that honestly seems kind of bad. I checked it and it's only about 2C. Resistance modifiers increase. This is okay. It's not amazing. And then we've got critical and mana modifiers are great. It's honestly not that great either. It's a random 5 link. So occasionally you are going to get sections like this where none of the rewards are that good. So what I suggest that you do in these circumstances is you just run back and open a bunch of small chests and you just try to get out of the zone, right? It doesn't really matter. You've got plenty of time to be running through. So you'll see here, this one's still not going to pop it, but this next chest that I open is going to pop the alarm. So what we're going to do here is we're actually just going to pop the alarm and pop as many of these chests as we possibly can. So now I could have been good and actually like opened this door properly and not wasted all this time, but we'll open that chest, we'll open that chest. Oh, I didn't actually hit it. Open that chest. Try to open as many of these as we can in the amount of time that we've got. Probably should have went and opened those other chests there, but we can open them with, hopefully with Tibbs. He might be able to open both of those for us. So we'll grab all these extra items since the stuff at the end wasn't really too great, and I feel like the chest probably would have given us something better. So now we can take Mr. Tibbs over here, and we can use him to hopefully open these final chests over here. Now, this can get a little dangerous because during this section, there's going to be a lot of enemies going on. These doors can be super dangerous, but you can see I've got Tibbs level 5, so he can actually open both of these jewelry chests for me, no problem whatsoever. We'll have him pop both of these open, and now we ended up leaving this place with every single big chest and a bunch of the small chests. No problem whatsoever. And that's with Vendiri with us, right? We opened pretty much everything, and we've got Vendiri and Karst with us, which pretty much even them out. All of the rogues that I have like reduced raising of alert level, made it super, super simple. And honestly, Vendiri is a god, and I need to level him up more. I've just been too lazy to do like the 800 heists that it requires to get everybody all leveled. So now, once you actually exit this escape route, something that is interesting that you can do is that even though there is another wing for us to do here, you can leave in between the wings. You can head back to the Rogue Harbor, you can drop off all of your stuff, so I've got like a bunch of like random stuff in my inventory here. I can drop all of this off in the stash, sell off any additional things that weren't too great, like all of these ended up being pretty bad, unfortunately. And then we can go back in here, and we can do the second wing with a completely empty inventory, besides a couple things that I forgot to take out. So now we can enter this wing, we can open up all these chests again, and repeat forever. Now, one thing that I do want to say about Grand Heists is that, in general, I suggest that you really only do the good ones. If you're doing all of your Grand Heists, you're just going to be wasting a lot of your actual rogues markers, because these are kind of hard to get if you're not buying them, which you can. Let me actually check the trade site right now to see how much. So right now, at best, one chaos is going to get you around 450 rogues markers, and it takes multiple thousands to be able to unlock stuff. So when you get up to like eye level 83 heists, you're going to be paying like 20-ish thousand markers to be able to unlock them. So that's going to be something like 40 chaos or so worth of rogues markers. So you really want to hold on to these until you're doing the big boy heists, right? You don't want to just spend these on any little heist like this. I only did this for the purpose of this video. So there is some pretty crazy stuff that you can do in heists right now. Things like fractured blueprints and things like that you've probably heard floating around, where you basically take like a blueprint that has some insane currency rooms on it. Somebody has a blueprint floating around with like 17 currency rooms. It's actually insane. And you can take beast crafting and fractured fossils and just create copies of this, because it doesn't matter what the actual map rolls on it. You just want it for the currency room. You take these fractured fossils, you take these beast crafting imprints, and you just imprint and copy these infinitely, basically, and you just run them over and over again. You can find videos on how to do this specifically, and I mean, you can literally like print exalts. There's a video that I suggest that you can go find by a guy named Cute Dog. He's a pretty cool guy. You should go check out his video on are fractured blueprints worth it? And he's got some cool information in there that you can watch if you're interested in more high-end stuff. That's not really something that I do. So that's it. Heist is a really currency-dense league now. Now that they've fixed most of the stuff and they've changed most everything about it, fixed all of the little bugs that have been plaguing us for some time, this is shaping up to be like a Delirium-esque league with the amount of currency that's being pushed into the market. And with the banning of bots and like the exalt printing that's going on, honestly, the buying power of the average person is way through the roof. It's a really ridiculous league, and I suggest that you try out some builds while everything is so cheap. So remember, guys, if you enjoy my content, make sure to like this video so that more people can see it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content similar to this, and stay safe out there in raid class, and I'll see you guys in the next video.